Okay, so you've got the sheet there. Let's look at, it says on the bottom, page 5. Well, that's the first page that you've got. But then it says, well, we went through this first, but the bottom line there, that's the translation. You are he that brought out 10 adornments. They're called tikkunin. And I explained that tikkunin are clothes, but not regular clothes. They're clothes that bring out a person's beauty, right? You can have clothes like wears a potato sack if you want, but it doesn't say anything about you. But there are clothes that when a person wears those clothes, it's not that the clothes are beautifying the person, but you now see the beauty of this person because of the clothes. Like you put on a woman might put on earrings or a necklace and so on, and somehow that brings out her beauty. Like those beauty marks. It's not popular now, but it used to be beauty marks that to direct your attention to where their beauty is. So those are the type of clothing that we're talking about. We're saying that the spheres, the 10 spheres, are, so to speak, it's a strange metaphor, clothing for God. Right? It's clothing for God. What does that mean? So it means it's bringing out something that was there all along, but you wouldn't see it. But now this is what brings it out. So we're saying, when talking about God, we mean the Or Ein Sof, this infinite light. That's what we discussed last week, was this infinite light. And we want to bring out, and the infinite light is absolutely simple. Just imagine, we're talking last week, imagine yourself in infinite light. Well, there's nothing to imagine. We don't mean light like this light that comes from these lights. We mean light closer to like the light that flashes in your mind when an idea, oh, I get it, the clarity of experience. But more than that, because in this flash, everything, all possibilities are there. Anything could be there. But you can't see anything. There's nothing there. Nothing actually emerged. It's all just there. It's all a possibility, that's all. Not even potential, it's just a possibility. So when now that emerges as there's wisdom and there's understanding and there's kindness and beauty, how does that happen? We say that's clothing. There's spheres that are like clothing that are bringing that out. They're like jewelry or adornments that are bringing something out, allowing something to be expressed that otherwise is entirely submerged within the light. So you see the bottom line, ladies, the bottom line over there on the first page. You are he that brought. I'll tell you what. One of you read. One side is the translation, and the other side is sort of an expansion commentary, expanding it into more words. So one of you read the left side, and then the other one will read the right side to us, and then we can discuss it. Can you do that? Mm-hmm. Go ahead, loud and clear.
You are he that brought out 10 adornments. We call them 10 spheros. You are he that emanated 10 modalities called spherot that would reveal you, but concealing you.
So what does that mean? So I said they're modalities because I want to express this idea that there's nothing new over here. It's not that God has changed. We haven't done anything to him, but something you can have many modalities of expression doesn't change you at all. But they reveal you by concealing you. Again, like clothing, like jewelry, any of those things. You bring out the beauty by clothing something. Words do that, right? You bring out your words for others to hear by clothing them inside words. Or take, you have a soul, this idea of we have a soul, there's a person inside me. Let's say this person had no body. The person wouldn't be able to walk, wouldn't be able to do things, wouldn't be able to see or hear, wouldn't be able to exist within the physical realm. at all. The soul comes into a body. Oh, now I see a world around me and I hear the things around me and I'm experiencing and I can interact with it. So the body is like clothing for the soul. By concealing the soul and limiting it, it's revealing the soul, allowing the soul to express itself. So that's what, this is the metaphor of clothing, but beautiful clothing. Bring out the person. So they're revealing by concealing. Okay, go to the next line on the next page. Do the same thing.
You emanated them to direct the worlds. They are not an essential aspect of you. They are but the interface between you and your creation. Concealed worlds and revealed worlds. For you created an endless number of realities, some that do not perceive themselves as separate from you, and others that perceive only their own reality.
One more line.
And within them, you disguise yourself from the sons of men. You filter your light through these 10 sefirot so that self-cognizant beings may stand within the power of your light while retaining their sense of being real.
Oh, you're good at reading. A lot of people stumble over all these words. Okay, so what did I have to do over here? I'm using the word interface. I thought that interface is a good word to express this idea of clothing. And I think probably 10, 20 years ago, if I'd have said interface, nobody would know what I'm talking about. But now we're getting more and more used to the idea that there's an interface between you and a device or between you and another person. You have to work through an interface.
You and the code.
Sorry?
The code that runs.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with zeros and ones. So I deal with a GUI, a graphic user interface. So you're looking at your device or here at this screen, and you're seeing all these objects there. Good evening, Mara. Right on time.
Good evening.
And you're seeing, oh, there's a folder over here, or there's an icon over, there's a little picture over here, there's a button over here. But those are not what's actually happening inside the processor of your device. There's no folders inside that processor. There's a bunch of charged silicon, that's all. But we can't deal with charged silicon or copper or any of that. So we have to have an interface on top of an interface on top of an interface. So sometimes we call it a skin. Put a skin on top of it. And now I can look at it. Now it has a certain view to it. And I can deal with that interface. So similarly, our bodies are an interface between the soul and this world around us. Like I said, explained before, that the soul can't interact directly with this world. The soul and this world are similar in some ways to the central processing unit inside this computer and me. We can't relate to each other. So we have to have something in between us, this interface. So the soul, to relate to the world, it needs to get dressed up inside a body. And then interfaces with the world through this body. So the body is clothing to the soul, but interface, if Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai were writing the Zohar today, maybe he would say interface instead of clothing. Yeah.
No, I just noticed that I understand now why Adam had translucent skin. His skin was translucent because the interface was so transparent.
Yeah, a transparent interface. A good interface is one where you understand what's going on in the machine, but you don't have to really be bothered with all of it. But it's also good because it's also a good interface. If you look at it, you immediately know what you're supposed to do. As soon as you notice it, you start noticing the interface and trying to think about it and understand it, it's a lousy interface. So right now, the world that we live in doesn't have such a great interface. You have to have a whole manual to tell you how to work with it. You have to be told, this food you don't eat, this food you can eat. On the seventh day, you have to rest, you know. You need to go refer to the manual to understand what to do and how to behave. But what will be in the times of Mashiach and after that will be a good interface where it'll be just obvious to everybody that you can't do that on Shabbos. It's Shabbos, so it's meant to be ridiculous, you know, it's obvious. And that, you don't eat that, you know, it's just, you won't have to think about it. You won't have to read a book in order to understand those things. Be apparent to anybody. I suppose tzaddikim live in such a world where everything is clear and obvious to them. Look at something and say, it's obvious, that's not for reading. It's obviously, it's a Shabbos today, what could you do? You can't do otherwise. I remember there were two young boys, young adolescents, when I was in yeshiva in Montreal. And these guys were both tzaddikim, real tzaddikim. I remember one of them is in the shower at the mikveh, you know, everybody's got this, like a gym shower, you know. And he says, there's no soap. And somebody says, he says, I can't find any soap. Somebody says, it's right there. He says, I don't see it there. Somebody says to me, he doesn't see it there because it's not his soap. So he's not going to use it because he's not going to use somebody else's soap. So he doesn't even see it there. Doesn't even see it there. Yeah, so that's a good interface. So the GUI, the user interface here is my interface between me and the CPU. My body is my interface between my soul and the world around me. My clothing is an interface between my body and the world around me. And God has an interface with his world, and it's the 10 spheres. So we're studying user interface over here when we're studying the 10 spheres. They're not there because he is those things. It's not that God is wisdom, is beauty, is love, any of those things. But that's his interface with us. So now you're obviously going to have the question, so is God wise? Is God understanding? Is God knowing? Is God loving? Is he beautiful? Is he just? Is he those things? Well, I'm saying it's just an interface. He has those things in order to deal with the world. But is he those things? So what would you say?
He expresses.
He expresses that, but is he that?
No.
I'm asking you probably one of the most difficult questions that everybody's been struggling with for the last 3,000 years or so, or more. Because in the Torah over and over again, we say, God is a tzaddik. God is a chassid. He is loving. He is just. He is these things. He is compassionate. He is these things. Well, we're saying, no, but it's just the interface. So how much of him do you have in that interface? That's the question. So it depends on what kind of an interface it is. Like I said, the body has an interface with the world, which is the clothing. But the body can change the clothing, take that clothing off and put on other clothing. It doesn't need that clothing. And if you grab the person's clothing, you don't have the person, unless the person's inside that clothing. But if he takes off his coat and hangs it up and you grab his coat, you don't have him. But going deeper than that. Oh, good evening. Just on time. Go deeper than that, though. We said that the body is an interface between the soul and the world. If I grab your finger, do I have you? If I'm holding on to your little finger, am I holding on to you? You're nodding. Yes, I have you. If I grab your shirt, I don't really have you. I grab your finger, I have you. I don't just say I have your body, I have you. The body is a different type of interface. Like I said, a good interface is that it's transparent. You feel a sort of an understanding of how the thing is working through this interface. I'll give you an example of a really bad interface. Bad, abuse of technology interface is ChatGPT. The chatbots, right? Because they give the impression that there's a person here. So it's not a transparent interface. You're not understanding that really it's just a language model that has nothing to do with intelligence. They even call it artificial intelligence, which is a complete misnomer because it's nothing to do. It just has to do with statistics, that's all. It's what Gebru called a stochastic parrot. It's like training a parrot to be able to speak all of human language just through incredible billions of instances of statistics. And now, because it can construct sentences and predict what's the best word to use and what are the best sentences to use, we feel like I'm talking to a person. Why? Because we intuitively, when we hear sentences that make sense to us, we, in our mind, construct a person that's there. We see a person behind it. So this is a distracting interface because it's distracting our minds to believe that there's something behind this interface that's not there at all. Today I got a note from a manager who's saying, I asked ChatGPT what articles we should write about Purim, and it gave me this list. So therefore, like, because it's supposed to be intelligent, right? But this just came up with this list. Well, there's no intelligence behind this. They're just sentences that make sense. That's all.
What did it suggest? What did it suggest? I'm really curious.
Oh, what impact does your Purim celebration have on sustainability? All sorts of stuff that I was not really interested in writing about. Okay, so that's an example of a bad interface where there's no connection between the interface and what's inside it. It's completely a disguise, completely. Whereas a good interface is where you feel you have a sense of what is actually happening here through this. And that's what the body is. The body is an amazing interface to the human being. You can look at a human being's face much of the time and know what's going on inside this person. Okay, a lot of the time you have no clue whatsoever. Human beings are very good at that too. But a lot of time, okay, a 2-year-old's face is like totally transparent. You got everything that's going on looking at that face. It's constantly changing and expressing anything that's going on is immediately expressed in that child, immediately. And then we learn to disguise ourselves. So the human body is an amazing interface to the soul. But the soul came from one place and the body from somewhere else. It says when the human being was created, then God breathed into the body nishmat chayim, a breath of life. All the other animals, as soon as they were created, immediately emerged together with them, their personality, their character, and so on. The human being has this duality. A duality. And even with the animals, they grow from eating food and all these things, material things, but the nefesh that's inside them is not made of material. It's something that when you have this complex being, immediately emerges with it, just like the being takes up space and exists within time. It also has a personality. Something, let's get to that, how it emerges. They're two different things. In other words, they're kind of foreign to one another. They come from different places. So your body, good evening, just on time. Yeah.
It's a way to switch places with Eric.
They're only giggling because I said that when they came in. So your body is growing from the food that you're eating and the air that you're breathing and the water you're drinking. And your soul is not living off of that. It's not that kind of a being. So there's a big disconnect between them. The spheres are an exquisite interface because both the light inside them and the vestment that they're in, that's containing them, are both coming from the same infinite light. So there's a beautiful harmony between them. So I'll give you another example of interface, which is closer to what the spheres are like. Where do your words come from? You ever ponder this, where words come from? It's such. Did you know the words you were going to speak before you spoke them? Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you plan it all out and you got it all straight in your head, and this is what I'm going to say. And then you start speaking and something completely different comes out. You ever experienced it? No, I spend a lot of time writing in my head because I get a lot of eye strain looking at the screen or at anything. So I work it all out, the whole thing in my head, what I'm going to write. I got an outline, I got the words, I got the good lines and everything. Okay, great. Now I sit down and start writing. Where did those words come from? That's not the words I had in my head. Where are they coming from? Well, you could ask the same thing about the ideas that are in your mind. Where did those ideas come from? I was thinking, and I had a problem, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's like this. Where did that come from? So we say that there's something that's beyond your intellect that they're coming from. Beyond you only become conscious of things once they're words, once they have words to them. Your conscious intellect is the verbiage, the articulation inside your mind. You know, it seems that you start off just learning how to speak as a small child, and then slowly you start integrating this speaking into your mind, and then you end up with this chatterbox in your head. Okay, and if you wouldn't have that chatterbox in your head, you probably would not be conscious of yourself. It allows us to be conscious of ourselves, which is very vital to us in order to socialize with other people. You know, you have to know how am I presenting? Who am I? I'm not this person, I'm me. So yeah, because we have thoughts in our mind. So we're only conscious of it once we have those thoughts in our mind. But the ideas are there beforehand, before they came into those words.
So, Rabbi, I have a question.
Oh, okay. Can I turn you to face everybody else so everybody else can
Sure.
see us? I'll hear
Hi.
you and they can at least see you, so you're not.
Hey,
Okay, there they
hi,
are.
Alex. Good to see you.
Okay,
So
go
my
ahead.
question-
I'm listening. Yeah.
So my question is Hashem, it tells us in Bereshit, Hashem spoke the world into being. So did Hashem have an idea before Hashem spoke the world into being? And is that how we're somehow in the image of Hashem?
Well, you're really jumping ahead. Yeah, we'll have to get to that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We're saying that all these things are a good model of, we're looking at ourselves and we're saying we're a microcosm of how the macrocosm of how everything works. So, and these words, articulation, are important. But what I'm using it for right now is that words are also an interface. They're clothing for your intellect and your emotions. It's what kind of a clothing? It's as though you've got an invisible person in the room. And you start putting clothing on this invisible person, and now you can see them. So here you have these thoughts and emotions which are not visible, not knowable to anybody, including yourself. But as soon as you dress them up with words, they become apparent. You become conscious of them. But unlike, so we say, well, that's like the soul and the body, right? You can't see a soul without a body. Put a body on top of the soul, now you can see this, but it's different. Because like I said, where did the words come from? From the same place that the ideas came from. Actually, the truth is we say they come from a deeper place than where the ideas came from. But pretty much, they're still much more united as one than a body and a soul. And it depends, really. Whose words? Whose words? There are people who struggle to find the right word. The people who write with a thesaurus right next to them. And they're trying to find words. They're like human language models that are just trying to find the words to express something. And they are lousy writers. They're like the artist who knows how to draw a caricature. They know if I draw these lines and this lines and this line, put the eyes over here, it will look like this person. And you look at the picture and yes, it looks like me or this person, but it's not alive, right? How do you know a good artist? You look at the picture and it's alive. And a good writer, you read the words and you're drawn in. You feel like there's a person talking to me in these words. I can feel the person inside the words. You can listen to a musician. There are musicians who play the notes, and there are musicians who the music flows through them. I had a teacher as a musician who told me, Tzvi, don't play notes. Don't play notes, right? What happens? The same thing happens with the artist, with the writer, with the musician, that you practice and you practice and you practice until your hands are no longer in the way. It just immediately comes out. Together with the ideas comes the words. The artist looks and feels the life of how this thing is alive, and his hands are so well trained, it just comes out. He's not thinking about what his hands are doing. If the artist is thinking about his hands and the paints, and not an artist, he needs another 500 hours of painting. And the same thing with the musician. The musician is thinking, where do my fingers go? Not a musician. It just happens. Right? So why am I saying this is that there are words that you collect from somewhere and you dress up your ideas with these words. That's a lousy interface. And there are words that just come out with the ideas. And everybody has their own words. You say two people will say the same idea, but they use different words. And they come from a very, very deep place, because sometimes I can see like somebody will start editing my stuff and then, okay, that looks like a good edit. It looks like a good edit. I can understand that, but this no. And so, and then something, no, that's not the right word. I'm not using that word. They say, why? I don't know. If I say it that way, it's not the same. But why? I don't know. Like you really want to really understand a person. It's not so much by the ideas that they say, but the way that they say it. It's an amazing thing. You know more about the person by the way they say it, the way they express themselves, than what it is that they're saying. And if somebody will ask you, well, what is it that you see? Sometimes you don't know what it is, but but I know what it is, but I don't have a way of saying it. That's why, as I say, sometimes a student can understand the teacher better than the teacher understands himself. Why? Because the teacher doesn't know why did I say it this way? And the student is so can tell you, you said it that way because, oh yes, now I get it. Okay, it happens. So words come from a deep place inside the same person that the ideas are coming from. And good words are an amazing interface to your ideas, just like good art or good music. So the spheres are, in a way, they're closer to that idea, but even more. When we say that Hashem creates the world with chokhmah, bina, das, chesed, or with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, with these things, we grasp the infinite light. When you grasp beauty in this world, you feel that you're grasping something unknowable and endless. When you discover wisdom in this world, you feel the mystery of it. You feel more of what you don't know than what you do know. So that demonstrates that there are tremendous, amazing interface to the infinite. Whenever you start to fully, really deep dive into anything in this world, whether it's of chesed or gevurah, tiferes, any of these spheres, you start feeling, but there's this amazing harmony of opposites, a paradox inside it. How could that be? Well, because it's infinite. You've got a window onto the infinite with each one of them. So those are the 10 spheres. That's sort of what in that gray box there on that page 6, that's what I was trying to express. You know, they use the metaphor of a tortoise, that its clothes, the clothes of the tortoise are of the tortoise itself, a snail, whatever. Ladies, can you continue your act there at the bottom of the page? You are the force that bonds you. Go ahead.
You are the force that bonds these spherot, and you unite them. You bond these spherot together as a single whole, just as the life within a body unites the many cells and organs into a single person. And since you are within them, and since you are the sustaining force of their unity, if one should separate one sphera from the other, if any person should cause a division among the sphera through destructive action in his world below, it is as though he has caused a separation in you. It is as though he has caused a division in your oneness, where he prevents your light from emanating throughout the sephira and thereby throughout the worlds.
So you see what's going on over here? Get an idea of it? We said that this is, I explained already, it is an interface from God into the world. But now, all of a sudden here, we're talking backwards. It's an interface in the other direction as well. And it's an interface to the degree that we can disrupt it. We can disrupt the interface. So if a person say, disrupt the interface. Let's say a person is in possession of something that doesn't belong to him. In other words, stolen goods, right? Or he's holding on to money owed to his employees, not giving it to them. Disrupting the interface, because part of the interface is this balance. It's Chasidic, that's din, gevurah. It's not happening. Or another situation, it could be somebody comes and needs tzedakah. They need help. And the person doesn't give. That's not right. The money was given to you for you to give it to this person, and you're not giving to that person. You're disrupting the flow of energy. Chesed is being disturbed over here. There's no chesed. Somebody has some wisdom to impart to others and holds on to it, or tells them something that's not true. Okay, it's interrupting this flow. And the same thing with, basically, that's what all of the averas, the things that are considered sins in the Torah, they're disrupting the flow of the 10 spheres. Whereas the mitzvahs are allowing that flow. You're in harmony with that flow. So you might think that, okay, so it's just something that happened down here because this person is holding on to stolen goods or didn't pass on the money it was supposed to pass on. So it's just disrupting it just down here in our world. No, it's affecting the 10 spheres above. So how does that change things? Well, everything, the entire world is receiving through this interface of the 10 spheres. So that action now is affecting the entire world. And it's like the Mishnah says, every person is responsible to say, Bishvili nivra olam, which translates usually as you're obligated to say, you're responsible to say, for my sake, the world was created. But the word is bishvili, a shavil. A shavil is a path. So I am the path through which the world is being created. And every individual has to see himself as that shvil, that path through which the energy is flowing. And we don't want to disrupt that. We want to be in resonance, in harmony with it.
Does not doing a positive mitzvah disrupt the same way as doing an avera, or is doing an avera more disruptive?
Okay, there's a difference between doing when a Torah gives you a don't do or you must do.
Mm-hmm.
So a don't do, and a person goes ahead and does it, like the example of stealing. So what happens is that you cause, it's called a blemish, it's damage above. And now there's something there that like you've got a parasite there, you've got an infection, and it's taking energy away, going to the wrong place. Whereas something you are supposed to do, it means this energy was supposed to come into the world, and it didn't. Okay, so you're going to say, well, that's not so bad. There's no real damage. It didn't come in. Oh, hold on. The damage can be fixed. Something that was supposed to happen and didn't happen, it's gone. You make it happen now, yeah, but it didn't happen then. What are you going to do about it? It's lost. It says with a neshama, the soul comes into this world. It's painful for the soul to be in a body. What's painful? Because there are going to be things happening that it doesn't like, that are opposed to it, and things that hurt and things that cause damage. But the thing that says the neshama is most worried about is that not so much that I'm going to cause damage, but at that time I was causing damage, I could have been bringing in light. See what I mean? There's two things. There's the damage that was caused, but worse than the damage that was caused, at that time I could have been doing something good. That's worse. It's one thing, say, for example, that you hurt somebody's feelings. That's a sin. Oh, nah, to hurt somebody's feeling is a lo tasa, lo sono ish Yisrael. You're not allowed to hurt somebody else's feelings. But worse than that, at that time, you could have been making them feel good. You could have told them something good about themselves. That's even worse. So we're saying that since the spheres are sort of the embodiment, this interface with God, he's putting himself out there, so to speak. I'm interfacing you through these things. I am being kind. I am being wise. I am being just. I am being these things. So you're going to start interfering with that. You are, in a way, you're messing with God. I'll give you a beautiful metaphor of the Maggid Misrich for the 10 spheres. This like sums it all up. Sums it all up. There's a father has a little child. He loves the little child. The little child likes to play in the dirt. What are the little child's favorite toys? Dirt, sticks, and mud, right? That's like little kid likes to play with, maybe blocks or something like that. The father loves the child. What does the father do? He gets down on the ground and plays with the kid on the ground. But he can't just sit on the floor. Like this is stupid stuff from building up blocks and then knocking them over. He's a 40-year-old man. It's not exciting to him, but he loves the child. So therefore, he has to get excited about it. But get this, the Maggid says, he can't pretend that he's getting excited about it. Right? Kids see right through that. He has to actually feel this is exciting and this is fun. And he does because he loves the child so much. So he becomes a little child in order to play with the child. Now, I watched this. I was for about a year observing in a child study center at a university. And I was watching some of the best educators there with little kids. And there was one of them, was a tall Japanese guy. I can't remember his name now. And you could watch him through the one-way glass if you wanted, or I just sat there and watched. And he'd be sitting on the floor. I won't forget this scene. He's sitting on the floor playing a card game with these kids. And he's saying, oh, you won. Oh, I lost that one. And every 30 seconds, he scans the room and sees everything that's happening. And at a certain point, two kids come over. He talks to them immediately. He talks to them like an adult. He gets them to settle the matter between the two of them. He gets them to settle the matter. And then he goes immediately back into the game, and he's a little kid at this immediately. So the director pointed out to him, this is a real educator. Can be in two worlds at the same time. He can be like a child while remaining an adult. So this is the Maggid's mashal, his metaphor, is how you can invest yourself entirely into this situation, but you don't become that. The infinite light, God is infinite and beyond all of this, but he's investing himself within wisdom, knowledge, kindness, beauty, all these things, justice. He's totally there. That's what he's being right now. This is his modality. Mess with that, you're messing with him. But at the same time, he's totally transcends all of that. Who was I always forget these names. The actor and The Godfather.
Nero?
What?
Nero? De Niro?
No. He was a big Philo-Semite. What was his name?
No. Anthony Hopkins?
What? No.
Hopkins?
No, okay. It'll come to me. One of the
Marlon Brando?
Marlon
There
Brando,
you
that's
go.
it, Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando, they say about him when he was in acting school, so learning the method, and the acting instructor says, okay, now everybody pretend you're a chicken. So everybody's going around, bark, 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 bark. Marlon Brando is sitting there. The instructor says, Marlon, I said, act like a chicken. He says, I'm laying an egg. Okay, and now the instructor has to get these people, get Marlon moving, So he says, okay, chickens, you just found out that there's a nuclear bomb going to fall on your heads. The chickens are going wild, they're bouncing in. So Marlon's sitting there. Marlon, I said that the nuclear bomb is going to fall on your head. He says, I'm a chicken. What do I know from nuclear bombs? Oh, God. Okay, I'm only saying because that's how he was as an actor. He was able to be totally invested, but remember that he's acting. He remained Marlon Brando even when he was acting as whatever. Okay, they say one time it doesn't end when he's playing the death of a salesman, he got totally depressed and walked out a window or something like that. But otherwise, he was able to remember who he was when he was acting. So that's like a parent, a real adult. Like you can have adults who become children when they play with children, and they have to win the game. You know, those ones that they'll play Monopoly with the kids, but they've got to win, you know. Or there are adults who play like a kid, but remember that they're adults. So again, an infinite God is playing with us. And he says, well, I'm going to play with these beings. I made them that they're going to have kindness and the opposite of kindness, and they're going to have intelligence. So I'm going to have to be invested in those modalities as well and be those things. And to what degree? To the degree that when we start playing around with those modalities in our world, we're messing up him. Does he say, ouch, that hurts? Well, it doesn't really hurt, but he's invested in the game. He's decided to invest himself in the game, so in a way that hurts. Yeah. So that's where we have all these spheres from. Let's go on to the next couple of lines. Ladies, you're on.
Now, these 10 spherot emerge according to their order. These spherot begin as a singularity, but emerge harmonized in 3 columns. One order is long. The right column of wisdom, kindness, and victory, by which you deal with the worlds in a positive, giving way. One is short. The left column of understanding, might, and glory, by which you deal with the worlds in strict judgment. And one is intermediate. By the middle column of knowing, beauty, and royalty, by which you deal with the world with compassion and forgiveness.
Okay. So otherwise, though, if you would just read those cryptic words of the Zohar, that there's an order of one is long and one is short and one is intermediate, well, we would have no idea. But we had Rabbi Moshe Cordovero who explained it to us, and it all makes sense. And that's how I translated according to. So I don't have a picture. Maybe I should have brought a picture, but everybody knows the picture of the 10 spheres, the Eitz Chaim. And there's 3 rows, which is significant. Because if you go from ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, to India and China, everywhere in the world, they have these 2 lines, the left side and the right side. People are most familiar with the Tao, where stillness is on one side, motion is on the other side. And okay, with all those attributes, it's very different than the Greek one, where all the male things are on the right side and female on the left side. To the Greeks, motion was important, so they put it on the right side. And Tao, stillness was important, put that on the right side. But it's the Eitz Chaim, this tree of life of the 10 spheres, has a middle one. And the middle one is, like it says over here, knowing, beauty, and royalty. Actually, Yesod is, why did I miss out Yesod? Foundation, whatever you call it, should be in there. There's actually 4 there.
Which one is 4?
I'm missing Yesod
Right, you said that would fit into.
in the middle column. Yeah, it should be in the middle
Strange
column.
because one order is long. That one has 3 spheres. One is short, and that has 4 spheres.
Yes, so the middle one is intermediate, even though it's longer. But what we mean is that, what we mean by that is that the long ones are ones that are expressing, the expanding. Chesed gives outward, and so does wisdom spreads outward. Whereas the short one is pulling in, so called short because it's pulling in. And the intermediate is a balance between the two. And beauty is also considered compassion, rachamim, which is the center of all of them. So it's all about balance in those ones. Nice balance. You know, let's back up. When you think about it, this idea of the 10 spheres and the way the modern mind, the way we're taught to think from elementary school on is very, very different. Opposites. Think about it. We ask somebody who took a biology course, how does thinking happen? Well, they say there's neurons in the mind and the neurons are firing and therefore thinking happens. Yeah, so where does wisdom come from? Where does understanding come from? Look at neurons firing. What are neurons firing? Well, it's all about matter and energy. So out of matter and energy emerges wisdom, understanding, knowledge. You'll ask them, what is beauty? Well, it's an epiphenomenon. Maybe it's an illusion. They're just emergent qualities that emerge out of matter and energy. Ask them, well, consciousness, how does consciousness emerge? I'm aware of myself. How does that emerge out of matter and energy? Either they don't understand the question or they say, we got a problem. It's called the hard problem of consciousness. How does that happen? Well, it emerges. It's an emergent. How does it emerge if it wasn't there to begin with? That's the big question. So for thousands of years beforehand, everybody had a completely different model. The opposite model. They said the world is made of intelligence. It's made of consciousness. It's made of those things. And then they said, well, how does the material emerge? How does that happen? Someone would say, well, it emerges out of intelligence. Well, how does material emerge out of intelligence? How does that happen? I mean, you could sort of see it now. Today, we put on goggles and you can put on gloves and you can touch things that are not there and see things that are not there. You could put a person in a vat and put wires into his brain and make him believe that he's in a universe. They made a movie about it. So maybe we could do that. Maybe all of us are just in a dream, okay? So, but either way, you see, the two different models each have the same similar problem. This model of physicalness is, well, if everything is made of physical stuff, this matter stuff, where does our awareness of it come from? And the other way, if everything's made of consciousness, wisdom, knowledge, and so on, where does the physical stuff come from? The model of the sphere seems to be the first one, right? You start off with wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and you start off, and then comes a world out of that in which you can perceive wisdom and understanding and knowledge. You start off with a sphere of beauty, and then out of the sphere of beauty emerges a world which is beautiful, as opposed to saying, well, the stuff just got together and dumb matter ended up being intelligent. Dumb matter being intelligent sounds pretty ridiculous, and wisdom and understanding emerging as a world sounds more feasible, but I still got a problem. First of all, where did physical matter come from? And secondly, why did it emerge as this world and not as another kind of world? How to explain all the details of it? It should be something very much more simple. It should be a world of wisdom, understanding, knowledge. That's it. Just details. So either model has really the same problem, and we have to just throw out the whole paradigm and stop saying, well, there's a top and there's a bottom. We can't say it's either it's going this way or it's going that way. We have to just say there is a creator who's totally beyond up and higher and lower, beyond the spheres. As that to him, these 10 spheres are just as distant and just as close as physical matter, the world. He creates them all as one. So he has in mind a physical world, and this physical world will be created through these 10 spheres. In which one is he found? In both. Is he at the top or at the bottom or in the middle? You can't even say. Like the example I think I gave the first class about you're watching a movie and somebody asks you, so where's the screenwriter in the movie? Everywhere? You can't even say everywhere. It's just... Okay, but it is much more helpful to keep in mind, principally, this model of God's wisdom emerges as a world. This beauty of this world of emanation emerges as the beauty of our world. It makes much more sense of everything. Why we have intelligence. You look at everything in the world, and everything in the world works on this pleasure principle. The bees started coming out now. In Atlanta, the bees are out already. And the bees are going around, and they're having so much fun, going from this flower to that flower, the cherry blossoms, right? And they look like they're just so delighted to go to another, find more pollen and more pollen. Why did God create the world that way? He could have just created a bee that it just instinctually, like a little robot, goes from one flower to the other flower. No, he tried to create it in a way that will be with pleasure and enjoyment. You see, like the foundation of the world is this pleasure and enjoyment, and everything else emerges out of there. And just like God decided on his own, he decided out of his free will that I'm going to make a world. And we see everything going about the world, just choosing to do this and choosing to do that. Everything has volition. Amazing thing. So it's it makes much more sense. That model makes much more sense to me than the physical model. But I can see a place for the physical model as well. You need both. And he's beyond both of them. So there's a beautiful medrash. It says that before God created each thing that he created, he asked it, would you like to be a bee? Yes, I'd like to be a bee. Would you like to be a frog? Yes, I'd like to be. Would you like to be a rock? Yes, I'd love to be a rock. What does it mean? What does it mean? It means that God said, I am going to be expressed in my entire creation, in every single creation. Just as I decide I want to have a world, the bee will decide that it wants to be a bee. It will have its own volition to be a bee, and it will choose to be a bee. It won't be not a bee. Right? Only human beings cannot be human. But bee, right? We're the only creature, like you don't say that was very unlion of that lion, but you say that's very inhuman of that human. Yeah. But otherwise, everything else is being what it wants to be.
It's a pun.
It's a what?
Pun.
A
B-E and B-E.
Yeah, being, bees, yeah. Being a bee.
After lunch, how are you?
English really does that. It really does it on those ones, yeah. Like I is the same problem.
Yes.
I and being, yeah. Okay, so I'm just pointing out it. Think about it. The more you think about it, the more you see that this model is so upside down, and the physical model is very, very recent. And you have even some great philosophers of the 20th century as well. Alfred, what's his name? What is it? Alfred North Whitehouse? No. Anyways, Bertrand Russell's teacher and colleague. He was a pantheist. He said this panpsychism. Intelligence is everywhere and everything. And many others said the same thing. So think about it again. That's what I say. It's not that things come together somehow and it ends up looking beautiful to us because of our adaptation. We adapted to the world to perceive beauty. No, there is something that's called beauty, and it emerges as a world in which we perceive beauty. It's not that slowly atoms and molecules organize themselves until they become a human brain, which then builds computers and does Zoom classes. And, which is basically saying that if you leave mud alone for a couple of billion years, it's going to become a computer. There's no difference, right? It will eventually become amoeba, which was going to become a more complex organism, going to become a human being, which is going to create a computer. So mud became a computer. So that's what it's saying, okay? So it's much, a dumb universe ends up creating all this intelligence. How does that happen? It's much easier, much more elegant to say, well, really it's intelligence. The universe is made of intelligence. And just that we don't perceive it until it becomes a human being.
If these are the zero, how do their opposites emerge?
How do the opposites emerge?
Yeah, like if the world is made of beauty, but sometimes you look around and it feels like there's so many not beautiful things.
There's a right side and the left side. Those are opposites. And the middle is the balance of opposites. Balance of opposites. So it's all about harmonizing opposites. That's when you I should have brought the chart. When you have the chart, you have the lines. There are 12 lines connecting everything. So everything is interconnected. There you have it. Thank you so much. The 12 lines that are connecting everything, creating harmony. And it's just like a human being. How do you tell if a human being is healthy? Put it over there. Okay, there you go. Thank you. And how do you tell a human being is healthy? It's a simple test. Tell a human being stand up and pull their finger. If the rest of the person moves,
It's a joke.
what? No, if you pull, just relax and everything's fine and relax and so on. You pull his finger, the whole person moves. But when you see a person is stiff, you pull the finger, nothing else moves. There's something wrong. A human being, any part you get affected, the whole person is affected, right? A little cut in a toe, and immediately the whole body's immune system is going into actions, and the cells in all your nerves are feeling this. Your brain is preoccupied with there's a boo-boo on my toe, right? And everything, and the cells are rushing to get to their place, and the right hormones and everything. There's an example of that. This is, I don't know how they don't see it. We once thought that the only intelligent part of the person is the brain. Then those who said, "Well, there's a whole nervous system going through the whole body," and they got shut up pretty fast. Okay, but then somebody discovers very recently there's a whole brain down there in your gut. There's a neuron system that's about as complex as a cat's brain down in your kishkas. And you know what? It's sending messages to your brain all the time. We want chocolate. And who's saying that? It's all the bacteria in your kiskus that are getting together and sending these messages to you. And your brain can choose to override them, that's all. And now it's got, well, the heart also, there's neurons there, there's a whole system. This is just really recent. People are thinking with their hearts, and the heart is sending more messages to the brain than the brain is sending to the heart. So there's a professor at I think London College University, who found there are people who are aware of their heartbeat more than others. And she looked at brokers on the London Stock Exchange floor. And many of these brokers were very aware of their heartbeat. And she tests them, you know. The ones who are aware of their heartbeat are more successful and last longer on the floor. They're making decisions with their heart, literally. Okay, but the latest I know about, you've got this immune system in your body. The immune system is an army that would put the American defense system into shame. It's so complex, like everything knows its job, and they had, like antibodies we thought were pretty simple. What antibodies do, they flag cells to say, target this one, get this one, you know, get this guy. And everybody knows what to do, when, and they're passing on messages to each other. So the whole immune system is an intelligent system. It's not made of neurons. They're all separate little cells and protein machines that are all working together. So what if all these cells and all the liquids in my body and these little protein machines can all gang up and work together to create this intelligence? Why isn't the biosphere also an intelligence?
Why is that?
The whole biosphere, planet Earth. Isn't that a complex system?
Yeah.
The Gaia hypothesis.
Yeah.
But they shut that one up so much. But why not?
What is the
Well,
guy?
it's-
The Gaia
Gaia.
hypothesis.
Gaia. GAIA. The
Yeah.
idea that like there is an GAIA,
Yeah.
the idea that there is an intelligence to the biosphere, to all the animals and plants, and the way the world works.
Where's the big duh there?
Well, now there's the discussion of called the world, the wood world web.
Wood world.
Wood world web. It's actually
Which is
from
like
my
a tree.
Yeah.
alma mater from University of British Columbia. What's her name? Suzanne somebody. She was pushing this for 20 years, and she finally made headway that the trees in the forest are communicating with each other through the fungi under the earth.
Yeah.
And they're protecting their siblings. And so there are mother trees. Don't cut down the mother trees. And you got the foresters, and we don't to know, you know, which. And it's a whole debate now: is the forest an intelligence? Trees, you know, at the end of roots of plants are little neurons. So basically, it's a distributed intelligence, which is clever because you can cut away some of the roots, and the rest still manage to keep. So wherever there's a complex system, there could be intelligence. So what's stopping the galaxy from being an intelligence? Everybody used to believe that constellations were intelligence. Well, what's stopping it? It's a complex system. What? But if you see that it's just an epiphenomenon that arises, no. The intelligence is what everything is made of. If somebody hits you over the head with a 2x4, you're going to say, but I felt something physical. Oh, it's a feeling that you have of an event. That's knowledge, that's information. Yeah, but it happened in time and space. What's time and space? Time and space is your experience of things. So everything's made of your experience of things. Okay, that's my experience of things. Was everything else experience? Well, I remember we were talking about why can't my hand go through the table? Well, because There's not atoms touching atoms. They're very far apart. What is it? It's rules. It's just a bunch of rules. The rules say that there's enough atoms over here, so you atoms can't come in. The electromagnetic fields, whatever you're going to call it, that's organizing everything here, says that no more atoms. Right? The reason your hand can't come to the table is basically the same reason you can't play baseball on a baseball diamond where there's already a team playing baseball there. It's against the rules. There's lots of room. It's against the rules. So everything's made of rules. What are rules? It's just information and intelligence.
So the karate guy that puts his hand through 10 bricks and breaks the bricks. Essentially, he's set aside his rules. In a
He
way.
practiced a lot too.
Yeah, that he has to start with the mindset that he can break this.
Yeah, those
but it
the
doesn't matter, he
rules
cannot.
are not infallible.
No, I don't think that I'm not going to take the sense that we create the rules because like, how does it go? Birds fly because they believe they can. No. We're not God. But I'm saying there is a God and his universe is made of information. His information. And you see a much greater unity in the universe. As somebody put it, this notion for human beings to believe that we are intelligent beings that emerged out of a dumb universe is just like the teenager trying to understand how a bright kid like me could come out of such two dumb parents. It's the same audacity. I believed that when I was 14. But you grow out of it after a while. Okay, so God willing, next week, we'll continue page 7. And then there could be a break for Purim at some point. Right? Oh, happy Adar. It's Adar. You have to be happy. Marvin Besimcha. Start being happy tonight. You must be happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, everybody. Nice closes. Bye-bye.